Welcome back. You're watching Wealth Manager. Continuing with our series on estate planning, today we'll get into the specifics of creating a trust. Ashwini Chopra, MD and CEO of Universal Trustees, is with us. Thanks, Ashwini, for joining us once more. Tell me one thing, Ashwini, is the trust a separate legal entity? For example, we have companies which are separate legal entities in themselves. Is a trust similar to that, or is it different?
No, a trust is technically not a legal entity.
Okay.
It's a legal obligation, whereby the settlor throws a legal obligation onto the trustees to hold the assets for the benefit of the beneficiaries named. So whatever assets are held are transferred to the name of trustees, not to the trust.
Okay.
So if I was settling, for example, some land or some property into a company, the owner of those would become the company, not the board members. In this case, in a trust case, the trustees would become the owner of the assets.
Okay.
That's the basic difference between being a legal obligation and legal entity. However, the trustees cannot use those assets for their own benefit. They have to use it for the benefit of their beneficiaries named in the trustee.
Okay. So that actually brings me to the next question in terms of, can you make any changes in the trust? It could be change in the objectives of the trust, whether it's adding, deleting a beneficiary itself, or changing the rights of any beneficiaries mentioned in the trust.
See, for certain specific types of trusts, it may not be possible.
Okay.
So, which brings me to the types of trust. So, you could set up a revocable trust.
Okay.
Wherein the settlor can retain the right to change whatever he wants during his life, and in certain circumstances vest that power into some other individuals to change that trustee. He can also revoke the whole trust, meaning he can say, I do not want to continue with the trust. Similarly, you could set up a discretionary trust, which even if it's irrevocable, within the class of beneficiaries identified, the individual shares are not identified. To that extent of who to distribute, what amount to distribute can be changed by the settlor. But revocable is more flexible than an irrevocable discretionary trust. Other type of trusts are typically instruments which cannot be changed once set up.
Okay.
Okay. So, barring certain circumstances and with the approval of the courts.
Okay. Is there any kind of a maximum period for which a trust can really be set up in India?
Well, while the Indian Trust Act does not specify a time period, so which means that charitable trusts, educational trusts and all can be set up for perpetuity. However, the Transfer of Property Act and the Indian Succession Act both put a limit on the life of trusts.
Okay.
This is typically called among our circles as rule of perpetuity, which means that you cannot set up a trust which will go on in perpetuity. At best, it could last for 2 or 3 generations. And thereafter, it may have to be rolled over or disposed of. Okay.
So conversely, can a trust be brought to an end before the period for which it is set up?
Absolutely. If the trust deed provides it, yes, absolutely it can be. But if the trust deed does not provide it, then you may not be able to do that.
Okay. So what are the actions open to the beneficiary where they believe that the trustee is not acting in the best interest of him or her?
So depending on the construction of the trust deed, one could go either to the other trustees, to an officer which we have started including by the name of protector. Okay. Else, the last option which the Trust Act specifies is going to the court and applying for relief. That then the court will decide on which manner, and that is an enforceable right by itself. So even if it's just a discretionary trust where you do not have an absolute right to benefits from the trust, you can still approach the court for relief in case you feel that the trustees are not acting in the best interest of beneficiaries.
Okay. So you spoke about creating a revocable and an irrevocable trust. What is your recommendation while creating a trust? Should one opt preferably for a revocable trust to gain that much more flexibility?
It all depends on the situations of the client. Quite often when families are not very clear or are going through an evolutionary phase, we recommend a revocable trust so that flexibility is retained with the family to change the trust deed over a period of time so that it's a living document.
Right.
In an irrevocable trust, typically you can't change it.
Okay.
So you may want to set an irrevocable trust specifically for, let's say, special children, for legacy planning, where you want to say that the rights of each branch of the family or each individual are clearly defined. So the objectives of the trust and the family situation determine what type of trust would be recommended.
So what are the things in your experience that people tend to overlook while creating a trust that they should really be aware about before going out and making a trust?
Oh, yeah. Biggest misconception about trust is that having a trust will sort out family issues, and if there are some disputes within the family, they will get ironed out. That doesn't happen like that.
Okay.
A trust is a way of holding assets, not a way of dispute resolution.
Right.
So that is one misconception. Second misconception which is there is that we will lose all control over all assets to the trustees who are the legal title holders. That's not the case really, and there are corporate entities which work like ourselves who have no vested interest in the assets of the trust. So you can look at creating a trust instrument which works for the benefit of all the family members, keep control with certain family members, define how succession of management or board control will go for.
Right.
Last one is that there is a tax arbitrage of having a trust. It's a tax neutral vehicle.
Okay.
There is no tax arbitrage, there is no tax advantage.
All right, Ashwini, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of Wealth Manager. To catch expert opinion and views on how to make your money work for you, log on to btvin.com/wealthmanager. If you have any queries or comments, do write into us on wealthmanager@btvin.com. Thanks for watching.